What's up? My name's Anthony Ryan Tripoli. I'm a freelance photographer based out of Brooklyn, New York. Normally I don't really make a lot of videos, but seeing as we're trapped inside right now because of COVID-19, and I haven't really seen a lot of videos about this topic, I thought it'd be interesting to make a video about how I use studio lighting when shooting portraits on Fuji Instax film. For those of you who don't know what Instax film is, it's like Polaroid film. It's instant film, but it's made by Fuji. They also make cameras for it. You've probably seen them at Urban Outfitters. They sell them in 3 different formats. They sell Instax Mini, Instax Square, and Instax Wide. I prefer to shoot on the Instax Wide just because it's the biggest one. A question I'm often asked though is how I got results like these. Because Fuji Instax cameras are all automatic and they don't allow you to hook up to studio strobes. And the answer to that is pretty simple. I use this camera. It's the lomo'instant wide made by Lomography. And I use this camera for a couple of reasons. First reason being, it has a PC sync socket on it. So I can hook up, using a PC sync cable, this camera to my studio strobes. The next reason I like to use this camera is you can have full control over all your settings. It does have an auto mode, it also has a bulb mode, and then it can fire at 1/30th of a second. So I can set my shutter speed to be a constant 1/30th of a second. The ISO of Fuji Instax film is ISO 800. So with 1/30th of a second and ISO 800, the only variable I have left to be able to dial in is aperture. The only problem with this camera is that it has a built-in light meter that auto-selects your aperture for you. This is the light meter here. So it'll either fire at f8 or f22. So what I do is I take a piece of black gaff tape, I cover the light meter, and it will always fire at f8. So my settings will always be 1/30th of a second at f8 at ISO 800 on this camera. When I set up my lights, then I use my light meter, I dial in ISO 800, 1/30th of a second, and I test pop the lights. When I test pop the lights, the meter will tell me what aperture I should set the camera to. Since I can't control the aperture of the camera other than f8, all I can control is the output from the lights. So I'll either power it up or power it down until my light meter reads 1/30th of a second at f8 at ISO 800. Now, a little bit of a hack here. Not really a hack, but a little cheat for me. Even though this is firing at f8, I like to meter my lights at f9. So they put out just a little bit more power. And the reason for that being is I find that Fuji Instax film slightly underexposes when it's metered for f8, 1/30th of a second, ISO 800. So to demonstrate the workflow, what I'm going to do is I'm going to shoot a portrait of my best friend Alex. He has an insane back piece from Mike Rubendahl, who's easily one of the greatest tattooers on earth. So I'm going to try to recreate what I did in this photo here. The goal is to light Alex so he's the only thing showing up in the frame and everything else goes black. That's why I have the black paper hanging up behind me right now. I'm going to be using Broncolor strobes with a beauty dish and a grid. The grid is going to help constrain the light and stop it from falling too much on the background so we can make the background go perfect black. Yeah. So. Good, you're good. Alright, pop your top. Alright. Okay, yeah. Do you know, no, like actually the arms like that are good. Okay. Can you turn other way? No, it's too much. Split the difference. Right about there. Perfect. Okay. The trick with aiming this, or the trick with framing this close is making sure I got my focus right. So we're about 3 tiles away, it's about 3 feet. It's supposed to be 1 to 2 meters. Okay, ready, and 1, 2. Now we wait. And that's how I use studio strobes when shooting on Fuji Instax film. A few other things I wanted to mention about this camera that weren't really relevant to this topic, but are really cool and were some of the reasons that pushed me to buy this camera. It has, in the lens cap here, which you can see, built into it is an optical remote, which allows you to trigger the camera remotely, and it makes shooting selfies like these a lot easier. It also came with two lenses, a wide and a macro. The wide comes in handy sometimes. I've yet to find a good use for the macro lens just because you can't see anything through the viewfinder, so you kind of all have to do it just off of looking at where you're pointing the lens. Another reason I really like this camera is it has a multiple exposure mode on it, which makes shooting more conceptual work a lot easier on a camera like this. And the last cool thing that it came with is this thing called the lomo'instant wide splitzer. And basically what this allows you to do is block out parts of your frame. So yeah, that's really it. This was a fun way for me to kill some time during this quarantine. I hope everyone's staying home, staying safe, staying sanitary, staying sane. I'm going a little crazy myself. If you're watching this on YouTube, follow me on Instagram. If you're watching this on Instagram, subscribe to me on YouTube. I don't know how much more educational type content I'm going to be putting out. I think there's a lot of really good photography educators on YouTube and on IG and everything like that, that it's not really something that I feel I can offer a lot in as far as new content. But if there's anything that you're interested in learning about that you can't find tutorials on, by all means please drop a comment below, and if it's something that I feel comfortable explaining, I'd love to make another video. Otherwise, that's really it. Thanks for watching, and see you later.